Let's dive straight into the summit. Our first panel discussion is how is the next gen technology driving innovation? Our panelists in the session are Bharat Panchal, Chief Risk Officer, FIS Global, Vinayak Godse, Vice President, Data Security Council of India, Ankur Arora, Director, Digital and Innovation at Sodexo. The panel will be moderated by Avishant Pant, investor and founder at the FinTech Meetup. Over to you, Avishant.
Yeah. Oh, yes. So actually, they had muted everyone, so therefore I could not unmute myself early. Thanks a lot to all of you. Good to see you, Bharat. And hi, Vinayak. I think Rahul has still not joined us, or is he there? I cannot find Rahul as of now. So as Rahul joins, we'll introduce him as well. But to begin the conversation, some interesting pieces which I have observed in last few weeks or so, I'll share a few thoughts on that, and then we'll go by one with Bharat, Vinayak, and Rahul to have further appreciation of the subject as such. So one thing which we did with Bharat's previous organization NPCI around a month back or so, is there's a startup called Riscovery based in Bangalore. Riscovery essentially works on insurance as a solution, and they reached out stating that can they offer a COVID insurance product to all those who are RuPay card holders. And as they were looking at that, we connected them with NPCI and all. And without Riscovery founders meeting NPCI team even once, in 5 days' time, a COVID insurance product was available to 600 million odd RuPay card holders across India. And that's essentially the power of API, or essentially the power of API economy. That essentially led me to conclude that anything which is created over APIs or digital value chain, or deep from a tech value chain perspective, anything which can be then sold off digitally, purchased digitally, and can be consumed by consumer on a digital basis, will essentially be driver of tech adoption over a period of time. So that's essentially kind of initial starting remark. Over to you, Bharat, then Vinayak, and then Rahul, to get your view that where the deep tech integrations in the world of open APIs are taking us.
Thank you, Shant. Thanks for the nice opening remark, and thanks to Vinayak. After a long time, I can see both of you.
Yeah, Bharat.
So, in our Hindu mythology, we say that necessity is mother of all innovation. However, COVID is not that good mother. It is post mother for all of us to think about innovation. But I think the journey has already begun. And if I have to start with people generally see transformation and innovation as synonymous, but in my view, it is something, since things have transformed, or transformation has taken a lead, which has further led to innovation. And that's where we as a country, we have seen in last 1 decade, so much of growth and transformation which has come out. And there's the best example, what you just said about the just in 5 days time. And I can definitely vouch for that, because had it been there, I would have been there as a risk head. I know how long it is difficult to get any product. I'm talking about the earlier days when you have to integrate anything in a digital network. How difficult it is, because we have to think for 100 other risks. And so, but I believe the innovation has brought us to a stage where things have become seamless. Everything is digitally, be it risk, be it compliance, be it the product viability and all. It has become a digital, and it's become a really innovative way, what Vishant you just mentioned. So I'm sure that next 30 minutes is going to be much more productive for all of us being on this conference. Thank you.
Thanks, Bharat. Vinayak, what is your view on, and as we are expanding and going deeper into tech as such, security related hassles are also increasing with the enhancement on that side. How you are looking at that piece?
Yeah, so I probably will not talk much on security because this is mostly on the technology side. But we approach security, and we are also looking security as an area for innovation and technology evolutions as well. And as we know that the security is probably one of the important field which everybody is now saying that this is the field which is probably recession proof until now people are talking about it, but probably this is also virus outbreak proof kind of area where the tremendous requirement of people as well as technology in the security field. But what we would like to really contextualize the discussion is for security as well. The security is a problem, and the security problem can be solved with the technology. So we recently run a kind of a session on a technology stack for security. So we talk about how the blockchain is helping security, how AIML is helping security, how clouds is helping security, what is happening at hardware level, how hardware is lending its support to security, how even the next generation computing is lending its support to security. So entire evolution which is happening in a technology stack, and somebody who's learning technology stack or working on some technology stack, so there are multiple use cases, and security is one of the important use case area which can be looked at from the solution side. And we have seen at a national level, at the NASSCOM and DSA level, we had been taking this agenda of creating that ecosystem in the country, which enables this deep technology driven the innovation. So, for example, with Government of India, with the National Security Council Secretariat, we had set up a portal called TechSagar. TechSagar is a portal which is a kind of a repository of technology capabilities of this country. So there are 25 areas like IoT, blockchain, AI, ML, cloud, and virtualization, wireless, hardware, robotics, computer vision, AR, VR, the drone, the SDI, software-defined infrastructure. So in each of these 25 area, we try to understand what academia is doing. We try to understand what startups are doing. We try to understand what the industry is doing, and we are trying to understand what R&D institutions have been doing. And this particular effort is from government side is to help people with the capabilities that are being generated, and people can then leverage this capability which has been developed by the technology world of this country. So this is an initial comment, but I will add more to when the discussion progresses.
Sure. Hi, Ankur. Good to see you. Yeah.
Hi,
So
Vishant.
as we are getting into the conversation on deep tech, and somewhere you are also directly, because of Sodexo, deeply connected with human from the point of view of employees to whom your solutions touch on a day in, day out basis. How do you see deep tech with the human at the fore of it, which is technology at core and human at the fore?
Yeah, I think all the technologies that we talk about, whether it is deep tech or let's say not so deep tech, essentially it has to answer some deep human need, right? And of course, there is technology for the longest of the time that we've seen the readiness is there, but the adoption has been a key challenge, right? So I think there is a nudge that was required, and of course demonetization was one of the nudge. Making some of the regulations that the RBI brought in was another nudge. And I think one very big stimulator in this area is now, because of the COVID, now we are forcing ourselves as humans to adopt newer technology and be more open, right? Otherwise, as Vinayak said, there is always issue in terms of 100% trusting a particular technology that I am completely safe 100%. And of course, there are always some entry cases in the in all the technologies. So I think from a deep tech or a human perspective, I think this the COVID scenario is a very good nudge in the positive direction for the technology adoption. And I think it is giving us a lot of exposure from a consumer's need perspective. And I think so far, because some of the for example, from Sodexo's perspective, because we were ready with the right kind of technology, so it was the right moment for us to push a little bit more in terms of having the right technology and adoption. So that was the scenario for us.
Thanks, Ankur. So now, as we had the initial remarks on the tech and the adoption which it is driving and so on and so forth. So now if we go back into the loop, and maybe any one of you can possibly look at answering this, which is that you all of us have seen that image possibly wherein they are showing that Geo and ulta of that is oil, which is essentially to say that data is new oil is the word which has been abused like anything. And data centricity is driving so much of what one can do from a tech point of view, adoption point of view, and so on and so forth. And all of you from the respective organizations perspective, you're observing a lot of data being created. Like say, for example, Ankur, you might be observing that at this point of time, completely in this context, that there are very few people who are going to office canteens, and therefore the usage of Sodexo coupons will be possibly lesser at this point of time, which hopefully over the period of time will increase. And similarly, if there are lesser number of people who are walking into a restaurant, again the meal vouchers are getting at that much lesser use. But then if we can have some kind of a data-led understanding and appreciation of the risk that a customer is carrying, and so on and so forth. And just some minutes back, somebody shared with me a Gillette advertisement wherein they have introduced Gillette Barber Insurance Pack, which is they are saying कि भाई आप नाई हो और चूंकि आप दूसरों के दाढ़ी काटते काटते आपको कोविड ना हो जाए, तो इसलिए हम आपको एक COVID insurance pack दे रहे हैं, and so on and so forth. So is it something which is that data is going to drive lot many things, wherein tomorrow a Zomato may come and say that with Zomato Gold, take this insurance cover, and so forth, and all of that. So what is your view how essentially possibly deep tech and better understanding of data will help us in creating such risk reward category led propositions? Any one of you? Yep.
Okay. Should I? I can start. So Abhishant, I think so. There is three things basically we do with the data, right? So one is we improve the experience of the consumer. Second is we improve our own internal productivity. And third is we try to find new possibilities, right? And each of these area has a tremendous possibility of using data and making use of data. Our ability to collect data, record data and collect data has significantly improved. It's not only that, even our mobile phone has now 7nm chip, and our ability to process that data has also significantly rising. So the quantum and complexity of data is rising day by day. So there is an estimate about this year will be creating 50 zettabyte and probably to reach to 175 zettabyte by 2025. So this data-led ecosystem is not now only limited to some transaction processing or consumer-centric industry. It's also now shaping the way the even very difficult industry segment like industrial ecosystem, like for example, a lot of oil energy companies, a lot of the critical infrastructure companies. So they are also making up a lot of their digitization plan, and there are very interesting plans that I had come across, and it was so surprising to see how data is being it's being used, and making use of data is becoming such an important central part of all the innovation which is happening, right? And then this overall data enterprise. So every enterprise is now data enterprise basically, and the way they have been working on a kind of a 7-8 different types of data. But there are some still data, like for example, some of the data like a commute, some of the data like a food delivery. So that data has created unicorns, but there are many other data sets basically which can really create a lot of new possibilities. So I recently come across one of the organization which has been trying to create a Uberization of industrial capacity utilization. So in our country, there's only 30-40% of the industrial capacity has been utilized, and probably if you are able to bring that in a digital way, so there is a possibility of utilizing that capability and save a lot of capital investment that goes into setting up new factories. So there are a lot of economic possibility which comes out of data, and data is definitely a cause of concern as well, but data definitely empowers a lot of new possibility, experience, productivity, and new possibilities as well. Thank you.
And maybe I'll quickly add to it, Abhishant, and what you said earlier. It's to understand the deep human needs is something that data aids, right? So all of us are in a way marketeers, and all of us are buyers in a way in terms of what behavior drives adoption. But data tells us the truth, right? So in God we trust. For everything else, I think for everybody else there is data, and it helps aid making decisions. Not just to the enterprise itself, I think data aids in making decision for the consumer. As you said, even for Sodexo, maybe the consumption of meal vouchers within the campus of a particular corporate may be low. So that is exactly what the data tells us. We don't assume that. And it helps us to redirect some of our consumers to the right places where they can use, or they can consume, their vouchers. And then it helps us increasing the adoption. It aids the decision making for us. It aids the decision making for the consumers also. So it's a win-win situation. And I think that is why for the organization and for all organizations, like, at some point of time, 10 years ago, we used to say that every enterprise is a marketing enterprise. And then we said technology, and now we're saying, data. So all the enterprises essentially have to have a capability to process large quantities of data, and that essentially gives you the right kind of competitive advantage, and gives more value to the end consumers that you're serving. And I think that is the key role for the data for us.
So I'll just add on what this Ankur and Vinayak said. So there are three big characters in the data: the guy who generates the data, the guy who possesses the data, and the guy who is going to ultimately use the data. I think in our country, yes, we know that 1 billion mobile phone and half a billion internet connection and all is generating huge number of data. Those who are generating data, they really don't know what they are generating. And those who wants to use the data, they really don't know where the data is available in a process form which can lead for another innovation. I'm just giving one small example. That, for example, a bank want to set up an ATM where highest footfall might be there. Now that intelligence is available not with the bank. Like, let's say for my previous organization has all transaction data, they can simply process the data and can say, yes, the average footfall in a particular area is 100 user per ATM. Then it doesn't make a good business case. But compared to that, if the area has around 500 to 600 footfall per ATM, that means there's a viability of setting up a new ATM, which will be a profitable business for the bank. I'm just giving that is the smallest example, but there are plenty of such example where data is generated by somebody, possessed by somebody, and used by somebody. If the correlation is made between all three players, probably lot of innovation can be derived out of the data what we are possessing as a country.
Yep. Thanks, Bharat. And somehow, is it like this that everyone is looking at monetizing data, but the data belongs to the same consumer to whom everyone is looking at monetizing in one or the other way, and at times.
But the biggest irony of the whole story that the guy who is owning the data, he really don't know what he's giving. And he don't know the value of the data what he's creating. That's the biggest problem.
So उसको लेकर के एक पुराना सा वो एक क्या था से एक पुराना शेर है, वो मुझे याद आता है, शायद हमारे कस्टमर के लिए कुछ इस तरीके से जाता है कि बड़े बेआबरू होके तेरे कूचे से हम निकले, बहुत निकले मेरे अरमा मगर फिर भी कम निकले. मतलब कस्टमर जो गरीब है उसको पता ही नहीं है कि उसका डेटा कहाँ है और वो उसके डेटा का मालिक है.
Abhishan, but actually if you just try to understand where the data economical levers are going, right? So data economy has two things. One is there are a lot of micro objectives. So for example, if I'm using a GPS service, for me one problem is solved, that it helps me to travel from one place to other place, right? But when data is aggregated, so that aggregation creates a lot of possibilities, right? On the individual, its role is to leverage and contribute back. So every individual, when it is sharing data, it's a contributing back to the capability that he has already leveraged, right? So for example, any platform that we use, so we use that for our own purpose, right? I use a GPS service for me to move from one place to other place in the shortest possible way and best possible way. So that's the benefit I get. I leverage that benefit. But in lieu of that, I contribute back, right? And that contribute back is basically everybody is doing, and that aggregation of the data, that creates a lot of aggregate level economical levers basically, and that requires a lot of effort, right? So a lot of micro objectives are getting solved, but there are a lot of macro objectives which comes possible, but for that you need significant level of investment, and that investments are put by a lot of these new startups, larger organizations working this field.
So Ankur, one thing which we are observing at this point of time from a new tech point of view, that new tech is as much of an old tech as such, and it is possibly in a different avatar. Like some days back, I was talking to somebody who essentially runs an HRMS payroll solution startup, and they were replacing registers and other things. And he said that I'm now looking at integrating financial services into the HRMS and a payroll value chain and so on. So it's essentially integration of one solution into another and so on and so forth. So when you are looking at from a Sodexo point of view, where are you looking at newer tech possibly redefining some of the pieces for you as an organization, and possibly as an, if not as an organization, as a sector as a whole, wherein employee and corporate employees at the center of tech-led innovations and so on?
Yeah, so I think very relevant question, Prashant, and of course all the enterprises are now looking at cutting edge technology solutions to to have the competitive advantage. And the more we look, the more we find that all the cutting edge technologies are with some of the key startups that we work with, and hence we work very closely with the startup ecosystem through our efforts in Sodexo Accelerator, and we have Sodexo Ventures to even invest in the startup ecosystem. So I think the running a very formal program to identify which are the relevant technologies for tomorrow and how do we onboard and partner with them and rather boost innovation in the industry rather than trying to compete with something. So we help boosting that innovation and we partner with such startups, and then we try to adopt some of it. And of course, some of the successful use cases, very many successful use cases have come out of it, of course. And we also look at in terms of investing some of the successful use cases, and that is how our service portfolio is continuously enhancing, right? And that is what gives us an advantage to stay on top of the industry. And I think not just our industry, Sodexo operates in many different industries per se, like facility management, food service, and benefits and rewards. And I think it is relevant for all the industries and not just for one. Working very closely with the ecosystem and engaging in open innovation, per se, that we call it, and that is very important.
Bharat, recently, around a month back or so, FIS also announced FIS Ventures, wherein they created around 100 million pool for investment into newer initiatives, tech, startup conversations, and so startup possibly investments and so on and so forth and all of that. So when you look at from a FIS point of view, one is to essentially create and build things in-house, and other is to partner and build with others. How you are looking at the innovation from a tech integrations and otherwise perspective?
I think definitely, Prashant, we as the leader in the fintech world in Fortune 300 company, so we have definite plan to innovate more and more in all the possible areas. So basically, we are working in banking solution, capital market, and now with WorldPay in merchant solution as well. So our objective is quite clear that we want more and more innovation, and therefore that is it's kind of the largest innovation fund which FIS has rolled out about 150 million. We do have our innovation lab already working in Bangalore, and as a global management, we bank on the Indian talent especially, and therefore the main focus is in Bangalore Innovation Lab, where we would like to invite more and more innovative ideas which can enhance the customer experience in terms of banking, payment, and corporate banking. Another objective that there are untouched market like Africa and Middle East, in which where a lot of possibility are there in terms of the digital economy, like what India has. Essentially, I would say, to sell the India's growth story out of India and to the developing countries. This kind of initiative from FIS will definitely, I would urge innovators to leverage on what program which we have rolled out, about $150 million, and it is details are available on our website. One can see from in a very cordial way how they can participate with our innovation journey.
Thanks. Vinayak, some time back, I think you, DSCI has also launched a program with Google and others, which was essentially around acceptance ecosystem creation and all of that. And that also had multiple elements of the ecosystem creation and supporting the ecosystem.
Yeah. So with Google, we largely worked on a digital payment security, and that is an alliance that we had worked with other players, including NPCI as well. So what we are doing in the technology development side, there is a Minister of Electronics and IT and DSI's initiative. So we are setting up a national center of excellence for cybersecurity technology development and product entrepreneurship. So this is a physical place in Delhi. There is a very state-of-art lab that we are setting up, and we have been setting also incubation center. It is not a one space or one location limited kind of initiative. It's a national level initiative we are setting up here. So we have to multiply that in a different universities across the India. So we already have 20 top universities are a partner of National COE for cybersecurity. We are also working with other incubators to get a cybersecurity on their agenda. And in that particular program, we have been running a lot of initiatives about creating focus on cryptography startup, creating focus on quantum security startups, creating focus on, for example, data security startup. We are also looking at network security specific work which is happening in the country. And we are trying to look at in this deep technology area for cybersecurity, how can we create that animal spirit and also create an investment ecosystem around it and support them in a way that, so this particular area requires quite a good intensive support, and this particular area is very difficult to work and difficult to really because there is a lot of global competition in this area. So this is something we have been doing for technology development side, and this area is a large leap. So cybersecurity technology development is two things. One part is the commercial value creation, but it's also important from the national security perspective. That's why we get a lot of government support to this initiative.
Thanks, Vinayak. Ankur, and as we close these conversations, so some of the pieces from the point of view of tech, which you think will be to watch out for in next 6 months to a year period, and also considering that we may have, say, because the Mumbai Angel Network led webinar, so we may have number of startups and all. What are the areas and others, or maybe investors? What are the areas that you may want to recommend to investors to possibly look at investing in your domain, and some of the tech pieces that you think are the upcoming ones?
So I think in the payment domain, the overall ecosystem is quite open, and I think we are still at maybe at a very least percentage of the innovation that we still have to see in the ecosystem, right? And I think there are a lot of standalone systems that exist in the ecosystem, right? And I think one problem that we face is that whenever we try to solve a particular use case, there are very many niche players in the industry, and there are very few players who are solving the end-to-end consumer problem, who is basically delivering values to multiple stakeholders in the value chain. And I know it is a very high level, but maybe it is difficult for me to call out a specific use case. But I think having an integrated solution which solves problem for multiple stakeholders is one key thing that we look at from a solutions perspective. And I think that is where the biggest challenge for the enterprises, right? So whenever we try to work with a technology partner to solve a particular challenge, there is a different niche player that exists who is doing it well, but there is no other player who is actually handling that use case. So I think from our perspective, that is one key challenge that I can think of.
Bharat?
So I have 2 points, Shant. The one is, of course, as Ankur said, that the ecosystem is open and a lot of room for innovation. But we as a country, I would always recommend, and which I keep on saying for many years, that so far the whole innovation is focusing the 20% of India. There is 80% of Bharat. There are a lot of room for innovators and investors to spend on something which is a kind of such a unique use case for a country like India, where huge potential is available in the market, where you are aware about the USSD use case, which couldn't click well, but still people have hunger to adopt kind of innovation or digital way to do banking in a rural part as well. So that is one area definitely one can look into this. The second one is about the security. The security challenges are dynamic, and therefore security by design is must for any innovation which you are going to do for today or tomorrow, anytime. It is so much so dynamic where you have to have the solution flexibility. At the same time, any potential threat, the system should be so agile that it can shielded immediately the moment you detect any threat, because the once the innovation is put in market, all is game about the scale and volume. But at the same time, with your increased scale and volume, the security threat is also going to increase, which will be difficult at the later stage. So my advice is to have a security by design for any innovation you do.
Thanks, Vinayak. Last comments from your side.
No, this is good, and entire area that you focus as a host of this program, the Mumbai Engine Network and all these things. So we definitely have now second largest startup ecosystem in the country, and most of them are working in the deep technology or digital technology area. What is need of the time is now focus on more deep technology startup, focus on some of the very important, crucial nationally priority areas of technology as well. That is where we have been working with Government of India, and we are putting a lot of effort from the industry side as well in this area. But overall, I think as a country, basically, so the entire data enterprise laid on the foundation of very core technology, right? So be it IoT, be it semiconductor technology, be it now quantum computing is coming, and there are a lot of effort which is happening all across globe. So I think all of those core deep technology areas should get their due focus, and there should be national larger strategy, and at the same time, very important innovation ecosystem that should be created, so that the aspirations in this area need to be created, and that needs to be nurtured, and there should be effort to commercialize and prioritize those aspirations.
Thanks, Vinayak. Thanks, Ankur. Thanks, Bharat. So thanks a lot to all of you for giving us a view of the ecosystem, where does it stand, and so on and so forth. To those who are the investors on this call from Mumbai Angel Network, possibly you may want to look at startups which are on the deep side from an embedded financial services point of view. Over the period of time, you will possibly observe emergence of a SaaS plus fintech story, which you may want to explore upon. It will be a very interesting story going forward as such. And specifically from a neobank perspective, you may want to look at commercial or corporate focused neobanks, which will have a very interesting story to play upon. Thanks a lot to all of you for joining, and we'll look forward to connect on a different occasion. Thank you all. Thanks
Thank
to
you.
the audience.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks, guys.
Thank you. Thanks, Vinayak. Bye-bye.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Vinayak, Ankur, and Abhishan for leading the opening panel and setting the stage for more insights.